Efficiency Unlocked is hosted by two tech-savvy physicians and dear friends of mine, Drs. Adam Karu and Dale Gold, who are experts in using technology to automate routine tasks and increase efficiency in everyday and business life. Let's see what they have for us today.
Stay tuned for this series of episodes where we'll be discussing the game-changing impact of AI in the realm of patient care and physician well-being.
Get ready to unlock efficiency with NerdMDs.
Efficiency Unlocked.
So what we did was we took all that accumulated knowledge and we said, machine learning, okay, very simple. We took 120 million medical events and we learned from them. We said the typical doctor or the accumulative knowledge of all these doctors, we won't use it to tell you what to do. We'll just use it to first show you what they looked at.
Welcome to our latest NerdMD's Efficiency Unlocked podcast episode. Today we're thrilled to have a very special guest with us that you just heard a small snippet from, Gadi Shenhar, the CEO and co-founder of Droxi. In the world of healthcare, the administrative burden of EHR in-baskets is a significant challenge to clinicians. But thankfully, solutions like Droxi are here to revolutionize the way we handle it. Droxi cleverly surfaces contextual information when you need it to make a clinical medical decision. Once you've made that decision, Droxi drafts a response for you and automates the downstream actions. The best part? It's EHR agnostic. That's right. No matter what EHR system you're working in, Droxi can integrate and work its in-basket magic. So sit back and relax as we have this fascinating conversation with Gadi. Welcome to the show, everyone, of Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved. I'm super happy today to have our guest joining us from Israel. We have the CEO of Droxi, as I just introduced the podcast, and I have Gadi on the line, who's in this wonderful, very professional studio, which looks marvelous. But Gadi, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So I really enjoy the origin story of everyone that we have on this show, whether they are a clinician, a non-clinician, started a company, joined a company. I would love to hear your origin story. And I know the listeners enjoy this part as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and inspiration for what landed you at Droxi ultimately, but even a little bit of your pre-story, I think would be super interesting for the listeners.
Sure. So, okay, what happened was a few years ago, my grandmother had a mild Alzheimer's disease, and she was treated with some drugs that managed to hinder the Alzheimer's progress. And one day, her exhausted physician, while walking behind the scenes, made an error and switched her drugs. Now, I don't know if it ever happened to you that someone made a medical error for a relative of yours, but for me, my grandmother turned from a relatively lucid person. She had a beginning of Alzheimer's, but it was still in the phase that it was like harder to detect in a way. And then so in a couple of days, she became pretty apathic and didn't know where she was until she died for several years. It was back in 2012, and that really impacted my family. It actually made me realize that those little things that we all talk about, those little efficiency things, those things that doctors have to deal with in their day-to-day lives, when it accumulates, that the effect, the burnout, everything all together, at the end of the day, it impacts all of us. Mm-hmm. And our journey started when we founded Droxi, my co-founder and I, Ravé Ben-Simon. So we thought about addressing that very specific thing, medication errors. We spoke, but we didn't want to do it like we didn't want to have another calculator or something that corrects the doctors or tells them what to do, because we felt that we've tried that, we've been there, we've done that, like the healthcare industry. Whereas we wanted to go with the doctors and try to see what can really make their lives better. We spoke with hundreds of physicians. We asked them a very simple thing, to rate different pains in their work. And surprisingly, almost all of them spoke about something very different than what we had anticipated. Like almost all of them rated 10 out of 10, not the pain of medication errors, but the pain of the work behind the scenes. And we never heard of that. What was it? It was like, and they talked about refills and labs and medical advice requests. And that was to us like, we didn't even know it was a problem. And it all comes, at the end of the day, we found out that if we could, there's a bottleneck. There is the EHR inbox, and it's cross continents. This is a thing that's everywhere. Everyone is dealing with. And just like if we could make that specific workflow better, streamline, use technology to make it less of a burdensome, less tiring, we could actually make an impact that will roll out to the patients. Does that make sense?
That completely makes sense. I mean, there's always so many times in these intros where I want to like interject and ask a follow-up question or kind of like say, yes. It takes, it's hard for me to stay silent because I heard, obviously your why story. I hear that frequently from, founders of any company. It almost always starts with some sort of personal story that happened either to them or their family or their loved ones. And I think, and then that the follow-up kind of commentary is, having that, going out there and actually kind of like asking those pain points, I think is somewhat unique because I think a lot of companies get started by maybe just one idea that seems like a good idea, and to either the person that's starting it or the physician that suggested or whatever. But I think that what you just highlighted, the in basket, and I know anyone who's a clinician, whether they're a physician, a nurse, any type of ancillary clinician, they have some sort of in basket. I mean, in their EHR world, and it's I think to listeners that don't know what a EHR or an electronic health record in basket is, it's like your email in basket or inbox that just never stops. Like it constantly is just coming in. And I mean, I just think that's super interesting. So tell us a little bit more details about like when were you guys doing that kind of thought experiment or trying to figure out the next thing to go after for timeline wise to give people a sense of when Droxi was kind of the inception of it?
Okay, so I had this thought for years. The last more than 10 years were about that. So I tried to plan all my life. I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how yet. So I started like saying, okay, in a few years, I want to open that company. So what do I have to do to get there? So I went to study engineering in the best AI school in Israel. And then it's like the Israel MIT sort of, it's called the Technion. And that's where I also met my co-founder. And I went to work for an AI company. So I was the third employee of AI Doc. So nowadays it's 400, 500 people. I think it's the leading AI company in healthcare. They do AI for radiology. So a lot of the lessons that I had for founding Droxi actually came from AI Doc. That you have to go with the doctors, that sometimes the fact that you see the doctor sees the AI learning from them, that is a major factor in adoption. All those little things that sort of we working with the healthcare providers, not through the end user is always a doctor. So there are enough people out there that optimize other needs, other necessities. If you solely focus on making their lives better, money will follow. You don't have to always optimize the ROI. So those little things were very significant, were very big lessons. Right now, by the way, I'm 2 blocks away from AI Doc, and from those 3 floors of 500 people sitting there and really making a change in the world's healthcare. They are in over 1,000 hospitals, and they have been nothing but super helpful to us when we started there. Next week, I'm flying to Miami, and I'm meeting with ADOC's CEO. He advises us a lot because it feels like we're going through the same things, the same paths. He also understands me mentally. Sometimes it's hard to be a founder, and he gets that. And sometimes it's like, I come to him with like a huge challenge, and he tells me, oh, been there, done that. Oh, I have the solution. Just listen. And they're like, whoa.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's amazing that you have, you're kind of, being employee number 3 and then having this idea to go off on your own. That's so cool that original parent company that you came from, that kind of where you got your chops, so to speak, is still willing to advise and help you guys along. I guess my follow-up question for this is, I think it takes a lot of courage to leave something that's good, and obviously AI Doc is good. I mean, they're doing great things. What was the driving force inside you that you wanted to start Droxi?
It was the force that brought me to AI Doc in the first place. It was, I always knew that I want to start something of my own, and that I had this vision, and this was like, and I always, from day one, I told them, we used to live in the same city. That now we lived in Miami, but we lived in the same town in Israel, and he used to give me rides home, and I sort of, those rides home were in continuous interview. How do you do that? Why did you set that way? Because when AI Doc started, it was the second company in Israel that did that. There was a company called Zebra Medical that was already a lot more advanced, and that company does not exist today, even though they had millions and millions of dollars in investments and in revenue. But every path that they chose, Elad Valach, the CEO, and the other co-founders, Michael Berginski, they chose differently, always. And I had to get into his mind, understand that amazing decision-making, and also their relationship. Those guys, those 2 co-founders never agreed about anything. There wasn't a single day that they were not a yes man. And that's how at school, I met Ravé, and I told him, out of the 300 people that were with us in school, 300, I told him, you will open up a startup with me. I want you to do that. Because, we never agree about anything, which is amazing. It builds, he suggests something, I said, no, but how about we do that? He said, oh, how about we do that? And then it accumulates, and I just...
No, that's super cool. It's, I know Dale is not on here today because he's celebrating some holiday time with his family back east in New Jersey. But, he and I kind of met in that similar way. We met working together where I was starting being an instructor in the classes, and he was a student in one of them. And it was the same thing. He was asking questions in that class that were just different than the way anyone else in that class was asking questions. And it was the same thing that you just said about, your co-founder, is you recognize that back in school. And it's I recognize that with him. And I was I went up to him after the class and I was like, hey, do you want to maybe start doing this? I was I see something. And it was the start of all of this. And so that's cool. I mean, and I'll tell you too, the other parallel that resonates is Dale and I are the same way. I'll say, oh, we should do this is I want to do this. And he's like, no, you shouldn't do that. We should do it this. And it's almost the total opposite. And then
I want to suggest a term for that.
Yeah.
You challenge each other.
Correct. It is. It's a total challenge. And it honestly, it always makes something better out of it when there's someone to challenge. So that is great advice. So let's steer, like, I guess, a little bit more specific to Droxi, because I think it's super important for people to understand what you guys are doing. And I really do believe that, from what I know about Droxi, is you guys are doing something, really different, I think, than anybody else out there, which is good. But what I think is also great is what your ultimate goal is with Droxi is very similar and kind of synergistic with a lot of the other companies that are trying to help physicians and frankly, they're just care delivery in general. But do you have, a little bit of like kind of the impact story, with Droxi so far, like either with customers or people that have been kind of touched by it already? Can you give a little bit of detail on how you've seen, Droxi create that big impact, for clinicians who are using it?
Yeah. So let's take, for example, a very simple flow, an everyday flow, like a medical advice request or a prescription refill. That thing every doctor does 100 times a day. So to do that, it's a very day-to-day thing, and you still have to do so many redundant actions and clicks and things. You get this prescription refill, you have to go to the patient chart, press in 1,000 different places. The information is not there for you. You have to go and search for it. By the time you found all the data points that you needed, you go back to the request. Oh, what was I even looking for? And then you need to do something. For example, you want to refer them. You want to prescribe. You want to do an action. To do that, that's a third aspect. You have to fill out manually a bunch of forms. And then let's say you also want to write a response yourself to the patient. And then you have to do that. It's like the fourth time you have to remind yourself, what were you even doing? And it's not just one physician. It's every physician everywhere. Millions of people do the exact same actions every day. And it's tiring. And by this 100th time you do it today, okay, you won't check that last lab result. You won't do it thoroughly because you're a human being. How many times, okay, you've seen those tens of times it was okay, but the 61st time that was off.
Yeah.
And then, so it's just like if millions of people do it every day. It's 2023. We have AI. Why not leverage all that? Why not learn from it? So what we did was we took all that accumulated knowledge and we said, machine learning, okay, very simple. We took 120 million medical events and we learned from them. We said the typical doctor or the accumulative knowledge of all these doctors, we won't use it to tell you what to do. We'll just use it to first show you what they looked at. Okay, they looked at that. That's like sort of a shortcut. Okay, no need to go to different tabs. This is what they looked at. Okay, now you have it all in front of your face. I see it all. I see it. It's right there. Okay, now what do I have to do left, right? I have to make a decision, a medical decision, and then I can sit down and think and make that decision. And what we want to do is give you those actions in one click. Okay, so the decisions can be refer or they can be prescribe. So when you press that, we can also fill out the forms and we can also anticipate what you'd probably, based on the things that you chose to do, anticipate what you want to write to those patients because you wrote it yesterday and you wrote it the day before and everybody, like millions of people wrote it for the same actions and the same patients. So okay, so we imagine just the day, like the perfect world in which you go to lecture at a medical school and you tell your students, the only thing you will ever do is practicing medicine. That's where we want to take the world. So the end game of this, so this happens today in 2023, some of it happens. What does happen? For a prescription refill or a medical advice request, the doctor gets the message with everything they need. They get to sit down and think, and then they do one click, and all the forms are filled, and a patient response is drafted. And they can check it, see, adjust it a little bit. The system learns from their adjustments, and then they can send it. And that's it. This is our way towards that one future perfect world. And then I want to send the ball back to your court and ask you, okay, when you wake up in the morning in a day that you're supposed to practice medicine, what else do you do other than practicing medicine?
Oh yeah, I would say it's probably filled with 60 to 70% like non-clinical things, and a lot of it centers around the in-basket, but a lot of it,
100%.
yeah. And that was just thrown out there as like a gestalt, but I think it is probably pretty accurate that you don't spend.
What does it contain?
Say that again.
What is those 60 to 70%? What are they other than EHR inbox?
A lot of it's the time in between those encounters with the patient, whether it's in a room or on a telephone or video. It's a lot of that transition time. And then it's a lot of those tasks that you've called out, like some of those other documentation tasks, the other pre-review tasks, the other things that you just need to, back to what you described, the information you need to make a decision. It's a good question, because it's the thing that I think always is driving the thought process of, clinical informatics leaders, especially the applied ones. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, okay, you just need this info to make this decision. If we can get you that info quicker and in a better way, you can make more decisions, throughout a day. And so, yeah, that's a great question, Gadi.
Yeah. So one day, we don't do documentation right now, but I guess that there will be a different company solving the documentation, maybe. Sure. But what I want to say that the vision is a very simple vision. Imagine that you now found a company and you hire 100 people, and then you hire 50 doctors. Will they be writing the code? Will they be documenting things? No, they will be practicing medicine. It's like, It's as simple as that. So, for example, we take assistants for different purposes. We use AI tools in our work. Everybody practices, like, works for the things they signed up for. So It should be the same. If it's like that in every profession, it should be the same in medicine. There's no reason to make it any different. And the reason why it's different, if you ask me, is because a lot of those documentation administrative things sort of require medical knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so complex. So if we could leave only the medical decision-making in it, and then let technology take care of it, that takes us a long way. And that's where we want to be. And that's probably can be done only with technology.
No, you're totally right. And I just had a conversation about this specific topic with Dale, actually, just this weekend. We got together with our families and had just some weekend quality time, I'll say that. And we were actually talking about that exact thing. Like, is there going to be a day where, like, a clinician no longer actually has to interact with the electronic system? Like, is it like it would just, the system would be there. It would be always present, kind of in the background. And if you needed information, you could call on it. But hopefully the system would be presenting the appropriate information to you that's contextual to what you need. Again, whether it's a nurse or a physician, I think all of that will come about. And if you would have asked me this type of stuff about a year and a half ago, I would have been like, yeah, it's super far off. But I think what's happened in this last 1+ years, of just the way artificial intelligence and machine learning have really excelled, it makes me believe that something like that will be here sooner than later.
Yeah, and it helps because the fact OpenAI did a great service for humanity in like demonstrating the use case. We obviously we don't use ChatGPT. We use our own trained technology that's suitable for the EHR inbox. But the fact that we can say we do ABC and people can sort of grasp the concept of generative AI.
Yep.
And they believe. There is a survey conducted, there is a research that shows that 58% of healthcare leaders intend in 2024 to collaborate generative AI in their healthcare systems. That is huge. I posted it on my LinkedIn and I said, when I started at AI Doc, it was like fighting to say AI is okay, it can be a part of healthcare. And the reactions we were getting was like rejections, like saying, no, this is too much, this is dangerous. So the majority of healthcare leaders stating those statements, it doesn't really mean like they're all going to actually do it, but it's like a leap of faith in the AI saying that we get because in the last 2 or 3 years, I think that a lot of the decision made were about let's add more human resources. Let's take a problem and debug it like the same way we always have tried to debug it.
Yep.
Throw more people at it. And it just won't be the solution.
Yeah. And something I've seen too is, in health systems, there's a lot of turnover in just the leadership, with time. And, people move on to different roles or people move on to different companies and different new leaders step in. And it's, this comment, I'll preface it by saying it's going to make me sound like I'm getting older because I've been around long enough, but you start to see kind of like these cycles come through too. And it's almost like what you just said, you either throw more people at it or you throw like different people. Like you kind of like throw, oh, have we ever tried doing this? And you kind of like, you're just shuffling the deck. And I think your comment about, OpenAI, ChatGPT, like that opened everybody's eyes, like across the board. I mean, I interviewed my daughter on an episode that's been live now. She's 12 years old on how she uses generative AI. And I think what was so great about it was anybody could use it because we all knew how to use a chat interface. Like we all knew how to text message someone, and the fact that was like the input into like an amazing complex technology on the back end. I think that's what, to your point, the reason why I think healthcare executives are so strong on wanting generative AI to help their systems, it's because of that. It's because we all saw like the benefit, in another use case, but you can easily connect it to how that same type of technology is going to help healthcare for both the care teams and patients. I mean, frankly, I think healthcare is going to be fundamentally different in not too long, which is for the better.
Yeah, because if you look at in any other industry, if you go into a bank, which is also has a lot of regulation, the systems don't look like the systems in a hospital. And any other industry is already like every system that had a tool to work with started like getting those little things that learn from the user's behavior. Your phone learns your iPhone. I'm not making a commercial to Apple right now, but they're doing a good job in learning the user behavior and then just like using it to streamline, to help you get to where you want to get faster.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. It's in every industry, but healthcare, which is the most important one for all of us, for every person's lives.
It's interesting you bring up the banking industry because that comes up a lot in kind of discussions with leaders in healthcare because, I think everyone uses a bank and we know what banks did over the years. I mean, when I was a kid, that's honestly, I think when ATMs, like the automatic teller machines, were invented. And I remember my mom being so resistant to those. Like she would be like, I need to go in and talk to my teller. And it's, and now obviously there's still ATMs, but you can do so much more. I mean, you can send money instantaneously to people anywhere. I mean, you can manage stuff, you can buy and sell stock, crypto, whatever. Like, it's so easy. And I think that what you called out in healthcare is, you're right, that hasn't happened yet. I mean, there's bits and pieces of it that are there, but it's like, it hasn't been the seismic shift that's really needed to make a difference.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I think, I always give an opportunity for everyone on this show to say, if you had 30 seconds where you bumped shoulders with someone, like say you were at a conference and all of a sudden you backed up and you ran into, the CEO of Mayo Clinic, and so you had that 30 second to say, oh, hey, I'm Gadi. Let me tell you about my product. If you could sell that in like 30 seconds or a minute, what would you say?
I'd say that your physicians shouldn't be working so hard on things that technology can solve, that we can use those millions of other people so they can just, it's everything I've already said, so I don't want to repeat myself, but they shouldn't be so burnt out. It's not such a hard problem. Let's just put AI to streamline that so they can focus on medicine. I'd say that it doesn't have to be a huge system or a small system. It's like every doctor everywhere, most specialties, I'd say, just like can have better lives, can focus on medicine more. And I'd say you're also a patient. And you are also on that end of being a patient also. Everybody's a patient. Mm-hmm. So we all want a doctor who's not here we have, for example, 26 hours shifts at the hospital. Nobody wants to go through a surgery with a surgeon who's in his 25th hour, right? So nobody wants to be treated in the day-to-day in like the majority of things is going to be in basket. The majority of things with the years will go to that direction more and more of everything virtual, everything remote. Okay, that's a fact of life. Let's do it well.
Awesome. I love that so much. And I, like I said earlier, I mean, I think it's very unique and also great that you guys have gone on this path, because I think you're up against not necessarily competitors in the sense of like the same, but the electronic health records themselves are trying to help kind of solve bits and pieces of this. But I think you guys have just gone about it in such a thoughtful way, to the way it was created, to the way it's executed. And yeah, I mean, I encourage anybody that's listening to this to obviously reach out to you and your team at Droxi. It's droxi.ai, right? Is that the website? Yeah. Super easy to remember. And I just think it's worth taking a look at it, especially in your EHR. Because I do.
Yeah, and I just want to say that.
Yeah.
On one hand, like the EHRs are like the big EHRs. On the other hand, they're our best partners. We work with them because they also understand like EHRs have marketplaces. We're now, for example, from this week, we're available on, it sounds like a commercial, but no, I'm not going to say it like that. We are available on Athena Health Marketplace. Yeah. And it's pretty cool because it means that Athena Health is working with us and we're also working with them because, I don't know, we just like spoke with a few healthcare systems. We are neutral. We don't discriminate for a certain EHR. We work with all EHRs, which is okay. And yeah, at the end of the day, those EHR systems that will adopt more and more AI solutions will win. If they block themselves, if they make themselves completely unreachable, and they know that, it will be hard for them to win the race, to win the ammunition race of the EHRs. And yeah, it's like they're a platform. At the end of the day, that's the direction they're going for, of being a platform, of being a marketplace that can host, like Apple or Google should not be developing all the applications a cell phone can offer, right? but they can have a marketplace and you can enjoy what everybody does. We want to be that. We don't want to compete with them. We just want to say, we complement you. We help you. Work with us like every other EHR is working with us, and like accept it. Let's do it together because we will help your clients be happier. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I love the win-win. I mean, that's somewhat cliche sometimes, but I also think it's true. I mean, and this is a perfect example where the spectrum of EHRs that are out there, they can't do everything. I mean, just like you said, like Apple and Google, they can't do everything. I mean, they can make the best core kind of product, but you really need that thought and innovation of others to really kind of augment and accelerate. Super, super cool. I mean, along those lines, I mean, do you have any kind of final comment where you just really think Droxi differentiates itself from others, or, even anybody else out there that's trying to do any of this?
I think that we're very transparent. There's a term in AI called AI explainability, which means technology. You use technology to explain your technology. And because we developed this tool, we can always unfold it. We can always open the box and show you how it works. And that's what I also learned from my experience in AI Doc, that when physicians understand the technology, when they can work with it, it doesn't tell them what to do. It doesn't throw random things at them. It's just like a tool they can play with. So they say, oh, I can get it. I can understand. If they don't understand, they won't really use it. If they understand it, if they like it, and it also adapts to their thinking. So it's just like an assistant that sort of have its own logic, but learns your logic. It really helps with adoption to transparency. Always, whatever you press, you always see what were the considerations behind AI. So that's a big key thing that we advocate for. And by the way, it started as a mistake. It started because we thought it was cool. We thought it was super cool to show the physicians why the AI was thinking, but then we realized it really drove adoption up. So, okay, if it works, then it works. Some good things happen by mistakes.
Well, I think you made the right mistake, I guess, in that sense that it, because I do think, some physicians can be very skeptical of new things, and it's not even necessarily new technology, but just new ways of doing things can be, there can be some skepticism. And I think it's because, clinicians are trained to be kind of so evidence-based. And so the way I describe explainability to other physicians who are not technical is this is the evidence for why, this tool worked in the way it did. And I think if you explain it that way, most physicians are like, oh, that makes total sense. You're giving me the most up-to-date reasoning behind why this tool suggested X, Y, and Z, which is frankly what we want. I mean, it's like the technological equivalent of clinical decision support, in the sense of you want to know why it kind of suggested. Super, super cool.
I love it. I love it because you say it in the right terms.
Yeah.
And us, we never know to speak the right language.
No, but I think I'll just say highlight that explainability piece, because I think that's critical to getting mass adoption of these types of tools initially. I mean, eventually you don't want that explainability. I mean, once you trust the tool, then it's kind of I don't need it anymore, But definitely
maybe for the rare cases,
of course,
when you see a description of 1 to 1,000, okay, then you want to see it again. But you're right. After a few days of using it, you don't really need explainability because you already understand how it got to what it got.
Correct. Awesome. All right, let's shift here to our last round, which I think a lot of the listeners love because we get to find out just a little bit more details about the person on the show themselves. So we call this the Nerd Alert Lightning Round. And you can answer these pretty quickly, like others have, or some people have been much more robust, which is okay too. But first question that I think everyone likes and enjoys: if you could live or vacation anywhere in the world, where would that be and why?
I think that it would be Japan. Like, I don't know if live, but it was, I visited Japan. It was like mind-blowing different. Like, the culture is so different from everything I've ever known. So I love it.
That's awesome. And it's funny, you're actually, I think, the third or fourth person. Some of the shows haven't actually aired yet, I think, that have actually said that. No, but it's like, honestly, it's making me even more want to take my family to Japan for a trip.
A bit different, and maybe I also always felt a bit different. So
cool. No, it's always nice to try different things. You mentioned, before we recorded, you're on the other side of the city you live in. So it's getting kind of late there now. So you'll have to drive home. But do you have a favorite vehicle or car that you either have or you kind of covet to have in the future?
Okay, this show is called Nerd MDs. So I'll admit that being a very nerdy person, I know nothing about cars nor football. So that's why I went to the Technion, because there were more Harry Potter nerds than football fans. So, and then I felt like I'm home. So I know nothing about, like, I barely know what car I'm driving, but yes, Kia, but
fair enough. No, that's totally fine. And that's why I asked this question, is because I think some people like super love cars. Some people could care less. I mean, we've had people say, I prefer a bicycle. So that's totally fine. Maybe I should ask, like, what's your favorite form of transportation?
I will tell you that every day I live on a mountain, okay? And every day I go to work, I use a diagonal train. It's very weird. It's a subway that has stairs inside the subway, and it goes like in the shape of the mountain. It's the weirdest train I've ever seen. It's called Carmelite because the mountain is called Carmel. And it works. It's there. The British people planned it. It's there from 1959, and it's amazing.
That sounds crazy. I'm going to look that up when we get off of here. I want to see some pictures and video of that. Awesome. I mean, outside of your current role as CEO of Droxi, do you see any other kind of big problems that are like just, kind of swirling in the back of your mind, that if you weren't doing what you're doing at Droxi, you would consider maybe tackling or are worth tackling?
I'm a vegetarian, and most of the time, like let's say once in a few months, I do eat meat sometimes, but I try to be vegetarian, and I really like the idea of cultivated meat. I think that this might be the future of food, maybe in 1,000 years. Like the fact that we all eat meat day to day, we look like something very barbaric, and we're not going to do it anymore. But maybe not. We'll see.
Cool. No, I love it. I'm sure you could take the same thought process and skills, what you've done so far in the AI world, to tackle that if you wanted.
But there won't be, like, you can mark, I'm glad it's recorded, but it's not like, I was at a conference and somebody asked me, like another entrepreneur comes, now let's say somebody wants to buy this company in $300 million. Now, what would you do? And then I said, oh, nothing, because we haven't changed the world yet. And then he said, he looks at me like he's shocked. And then I said, what? This is my dream. This is the only thing I want to do. So I said, $300 million, find a new dream. I'd take that and find a new dream. I said, no, it's not about the money. Yeah. It's about the meaning. And he looked at me. He was like very surprised. And to me, that's like obvious. I'm here, like I wouldn't change it for anything else in the world.
I love that. That's great. Along the lines of efficiency, obviously you've talked about how your company is trying to make, physicians as kind of really efficient as possible, so it gets that information in front of them. Is there anything that you do in your life that is like your efficiency hack that would be worthy of sharing?
Okay. I have a very bad ADHD. So to compensate for that, I have a highly programmed daily schedule. Like every minute is planned. Like my calendar, if you look at my calendar, it's like 30 or 15 minutes each the entire day. very embarrassing. And when people look at that, they're like, their mind explodes. But that's how I work.
No, if it keeps you organized. What do you just use a general calendar? Do you use a specific calendar tool?
Yeah, just calendar. But in my day to day, a lot of assistants, a lot of AI tools for anything. For example, English is not my first language, so there's a tool called WordTune, and that I write the way I think, and then it just writes it in proper English, which is great. There's Grammarly that fixes all the mistakes that are left. And then there's even Droxi. Droxi was chosen by an AI engine. Like the AI engine, it's an online engine to propose like hundreds of names. And then I saw Droxi. So there's DR for doctor, there's RX for prescriptions. Okay, this is the name, this is the one. We saw it like, it's for brand names that's supposed to sound like brandy and that people will remember. And then I said, okay, the future comes from AI, even brand names one day will come from here.
Very cool. No, that's what I figured you were using other AI tools and other things to help you. And you just named 3 that I think you used in those use cases, which is great.
Oh, by the way, the creator of WordTune, he's a big guy, he's a big shot. He also invented Mobileye, which is like a car safety mechanism. It alerts you if you're about to hit another car or something. So I also use that. Like I use his bank. He created a bank that doesn't really have AI. Like he tried to put like AI analysis on his like bank, but it's a cool bank. So I use a lot of things. And then I found out like a lot of them were created by the same guy. So I won't mention his name, but you can Google. Pretty cool.
No, sometimes you follow that same visionary person can create lots of Halo kind of products, and it's worthwhile to follow. So the last question I always ask folks is, obviously technology has a ton of good in the world. And, you and I would probably argue that it has immensely more good than bad. But is there, anything around technology, either in your space or even outside, that you're, just concerned, that it can get into the wrong hands?
It's a good question. I think that there's a lot of focus on like the bad aspects. Sometimes the focus on, obviously there can be bad things. There could be like more sophisticated cybersecurity attacks and I don't know. But at the end of the day, we have yet to uncover like a little bit, like maybe 10% of the good things it can create for us with the existing technology. I feel like there's a big buzz around the bad, the negative things, which sort of like, it's okay. It's a good thing in a way. Like people are cautious, which is great, but maybe we're too cautious. Maybe we can let ourselves enjoy this a little bit more and improve our lives with the existing things. So that's my opinion.
Nope. That's a great opinion. And I think we'll wrap with that. Unless you have any final question for me, I always let people ask. You snuck one question in the middle to me, but yeah, do you have any final questions for me, Gadi?
What would you do if you weren't a doctor?
That's a great question. And actually I haven't been asked that yet on the show.
Yes.
I think, so that was a good one. I think for me, the glue that has kind of persisted throughout my whole life has always been technology in some way, even from when I was a little kid. And, frankly, technology looked a lot different. And so I think I would most likely be in some sort of technological space, trying to solve problems. I mean, it was the serendipitous way that I got into kind of health tech internally, through informatics. In the same way, I just was like, I need to help make this better for, the clinicians and ultimately patients for care. And, what better way to do it than kind of optimize the technology within, a health system or just a care network in itself. So I think I would probably still be in technology. I don't know what it would be. I mean, maybe I would have been an engineer of some sort and gone down that path. But I'm thankful I went through the medical path in that way, that it allowed me to have that foundational knowledge and experience to now really try and help healthcare move forward.
It's amazing because you would still take care of people, but from actually like you're doing right now, but like try to solve high skill problems, and while also taking care of your patients, which is cool.
Yeah. Awesome, Gadi. Well, what is the preferred way if somebody were wanted to reach out to either you or Droxi? What's the best way for them to get connected?
Okay, so first on our website, droxi.ai, there's a button for talk to me or call or whatever. So you can press either one of these buttons. It will schedule an appointment. So I love talking to people, and you can add me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to have and say that you came from here, because that would be cool to know.
Great.
Because they're fun. So either way, or you can just email Gadi at droxi.ai. Either way, sorry for giving so many options. You can feel free.
No, that's great. So you said the website has easy ways to connect and book. Almost, it sounds like a direct appointment, which is great. Obviously, connect with you on LinkedIn, and we'll include that in the description, the link there, and or just email you at gadi@droxi.ai. So thank you again for taking the time this morning for me, evening for you over in Israel. Wish you a happy new year, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing and taking the time to chat today.
Thank you so much. And I had a great time, and thank you for hosting me. I really appreciate this.
All right. Drive safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved, a Nerd MD's podcast by Drs. Adam Carew and Dale Gold.